Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. A warm welcome to each and every one of you. We are very grateful for your interest in our topic of today. We have at this moment already 285 connected people, and the figure is growing every second. We also received 190 requests to get the recording of this webinar, so there is a clear interest in the subject of today. Port of Antwerp plays her role in the supply chain. And supply chain touches upon many aspects, but two of them are very relevant to today. It's reliability and connectivity. Port of Antwerp is excellently connected to its foreland via many maritime connections, but today our focus will be on the connectivity towards the hinterland, the European hinterland. Let me start with some practical things. The webinar will last about 1 hour. On your screen, you can see the different tab pages, one for chats, so please feel free to interact with one another. There is also a tab page on questions, which we invite you to use if you have specific questions. There is a team behind the scene that will reply to all your questions today or in the coming days. Please be assured we will address each and every question you raise today. Some of them might be answered during the webinar. That will depend a bit on the timing. But you will get an answer, as I said, to all your questions. The webinar is being recorded, so you can listen to it again in the coming days or forward it to people that might be interested in this webinar. Who do we have today on stage? To my left, Ingrid van Streels, colleague from Port of Antwerp, responsible for shippers and forwarders as key account manager. Ingrid, warm welcome.
Thank you.
To my right side, Katarina Stantsova, Port of Antwerp as well, mobility expert, and with us already more than 6 years as railway expert. Also very welcome and thank you for being with us to walk us through the interesting world of rail and barge.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
We also have two external speakers coming on a bit later, Mr. Pierre Timmermans from DB Cargo and Mr. Ken Joris from Manupor Logistics. But let's have a look at the agenda now. We will touch 5 subjects today. First one, today's challenges. Second one, going a bit deeper onto sustainable rail transport solutions. The third chapter is on sustainable barge transport. The fourth on night logistics, and the last chapter on short sea connections. But before we start, just one slide on the situation of the Port of Antwerp and our neighboring ports in these COVID days. People for sure will be interested to know how ports are doing after 6 months. Port of Antwerp remained operational for 100% the whole period of COVID until today. And we are also happy to see that we kept a very strong position. On this map you see the different ports, neighboring ports here, and the second to the left is Port of Antwerp. And in the container segment we were the only port able to still realize a small growth compared to the first 6 months of 2019. Our neighboring ports, as you can see, were confronted with negative figures. On the total volumes of the Port of Antwerp, we also had a decline of 4.9%, but compared to the other ports, the performance was okay. We are very happy with that. Main reasons for this performance is the diversified portfolio of our port. We are handling all kinds of commodities, all kinds of goods, but also coming from all origins. So we are a very diversified port in terms of portfolio of trade lanes. So when one is going weak, the other one compensates to a certain extent. And the fact that we, from the immediate beginning, started a strong collaboration between all the stakeholders in the port also helped us not only to remain operational, but also to remain competitive, as you can see from these figures. But let's start with the webinar of today. Few challenges. On this slide, we brought a few of them. There are many, but these you will certainly recognize. Brexit, we are going for the last phase, and it looks like we are heading for a tough Brexit, a hard Brexit. So that will evidently impact the supply chain for those who are trading with the UK and the European continent, and Belgium, of course, are very much involved in this trade lane. COVID-19. We all hope that there will be a vaccine in the coming months that will bring some definitive solution to this situation, but there is still some months ahead of us, hopefully not longer, that we will have to live with COVID-19 and its impact on our supply chains in terms of dependence on certain areas and so on. Congestion on the roads in Europe at peak moments is a subject that will be on our agenda for many, many years to come. We expect internal transport still to grow in the coming years. We are sitting here together today to discuss alternatives, barge, rail, short sea, to ease the congestion on the road, but we will be confronted with congestions anyway. Infrastructure. The need for massive investments in road, in rail, is on for the coming years. And then the last subject, sustainability. Let me focus on the infrastructure part and a specific subject, the infrastructure around Antwerp. Katharina, Antwerp has started what they call the wharf of the century. Where are we now, and are we heading for big troubles?
Well, no. Yes, look, this regards one of the biggest European investment into the road infrastructure in Europe, and the ring around Antwerp will be completed fully to be round in order to ensure the smooth traffic flows. There will be even a tunnel built under the River Scheldt. It is a long-term project with efficiency gains on a long term. The construction is foreseen by 2030. In order to mitigate the impact to an absolute minimum, the works are spread in 5 key phases. You can see them on the slide. The works have already started on the left bank at the River Scheldt, close to the port, and the works are performed as scheduled. So far, so good. The works on the right bank will start next year. It is the key goal that the obstacles are avoided and that there will be always alternative roads foreseen in case of interruption.
Okay. So a phased approach will of course help to mitigate the impact of these infrastructure works, but also I guess the subject of today, the shift to barge and rail, will help us through this wharf of the century period. Katharina, do you expect specific impact on the trade with our main hinterland partners, Germany, the Netherlands, France?
Well, in the past, we have already seen in the past weeks a few traffic jams because of the works, and it is expected that there will be impact on the transport flows from the neighboring countries. Of course, at this moment, I cannot give you a definite explanation of the impact because the works it's too early to predict. On the other hand, you can rely on us that we will inform you about the performed works. And to mitigate the impact to an absolute minimum, we appeal and we encourage you all to use the alternative transport modes, being barge and rail transport, rather than the road transportation. At the end, you all may recognize the advantages of it.
Okay. Thank you. Ingrid, a word on the fifth trend we mentioned. During COVID, a lot of voices were saying we have to put climate aside for a while, put it on the shelf because we have other priorities. I think Port of Antwerp is not going along that line.
Well, logistics is a cost and time-driven industry. So we understand if we speak of friendly environmental supply chain, it is not your biggest motivator today. But we speak about the European Green Deal. Many people have heard about it. And what is that exactly? It's the fact that Europe has set a very ambitious goal. We want to be the first climate neutral continent by 2050. As the second biggest port of Europe, we cannot stay behind, and we are even more ambitious. We want to reach this goal earlier, if possible, even by 2030. And of course, sustainable mobility, the topics we are speaking about today, is playing a very big role in this. And this sustainable mobility will bring for us strategic guidelines for our strategic plan the coming years.
Okay, lovely. Good to hear that Port of Antwerp strategic plan will be inspired by this Green
definitely.
Deal. Let's now look into the different alternative transport modes towards the hinterland. Barge, rail, short sea and so on. I think we have a short movie on this. Can we see that now?
Port of Antwerp's intermodal terminals offer an excellent connectivity to the European hinterland. Avoid traffic jams during the day and transport your goods by truck overnight. Antwerp's container terminals are open 24/5 and depots offer wide time windows. Antwerp offers 222 weekly frequent container barge shuttles to 90 destinations in 6 European countries. We offer 225 weekly container rail shuttles to 70 final destinations in 20 European countries. To reach overseas destinations in Northern Europe and the Mediterranean region, Antwerp offers 55 weekly short sea and feeder services. You now have a good overview of the alternatives to road transport between the Port of Antwerp and economic centres in Europe. Start planning your route on the Port of Antwerp connectivity platform.
So you got a brief overview of the different solutions. Let's now go into some more detail. Rail transport. Catharina, let us kick off there. How do you see the current position of Port of Antwerp for rail?
Port of Antwerp has, regarding the rail transport, today a less strong position as we wish, as the share of the rail is low. On the other hand, we recognize also huge potential for growth of rail transport. And we have ambitious goal. We want to double the rail volumes in order to achieve at least 15% of at the total modal split. And in order to achieve this, we will increase the efficiency of the last and first mile in the port, and we will also increase the rail offering towards the European hinterland. Let me give you a brief insight into the position of Port of Antwerp concerning the European hinterland. This map shows you the key destinations to which Antwerp has regular container shuttles. We have connections to 14 European countries. Port of Antwerp has strong position on the north-south corridor, so from Antwerp to north of Italy and Switzerland, with daily shuttles and excellent transit times. As far as Germany is concerned, we have regular shuttles to the terminals along the river Rhine and also to the eastern Germany. We will talk about Germany and the positive developments later on. Regarding France, you can see the key destinations on this map. The good thing is that recently a new shuttle was launched by operator Lineas Intermodal to Lyon, which offers additional opportunities for the shippers around Lyon. Regarding the west-east corridor, we see also positive developments as there is an increase in frequency of a few shuttles to and from Austria. And also regarding the CEE markets like Poland, Czechia, Slovakia and Hungary, there are new players connecting Antwerp to these regions, like PCC Intermodal with new shuttle from Poland connecting various terminals in Poland to Antwerp. Let me finally say that all these shuttles I have mentioned you can find in our connectivity platform, where you can also find the contact details of the key operators providing this service. These shuttles are aimed for various type of cargo. Think of various pharmaceutical products, e-commerce products, chemicals and so on. And Port of Antwerp, last thing, Port of Antwerp has in fact important role as a storage hub in this and as a consolidation center for the further distribution to overseas destinations.
It's good to hear that the rail offering is constantly growing, so additional destinations or additional frequencies are being added. That's fantastic. Catharina, still a lot of people are afraid of rail. They feel road is much easier. Can you quickly explain us and convince shippers who are listening to us today that it's not that complicated to use rail in your supply chain?
Well, how does it work? Let me give you an example about the container shuttle from Vienna, for example, from Austria. The shipper can book the transport via a forwarding company, and the forwarder checks the availability of the empty containers with the shipping lines and books the transport via a railway operator. The containers are then loaded on a train in a container terminal in Vienna, and then the train drives directly either to the maritime terminal, which is the most optimal way, or to the rail terminal in Antwerp, from which then the train goes to the maritime terminal. And from the maritime terminal, the containers are distributed further to the overseas destinations. The transit time of this transport from Vienna to the maritime terminal, so I mean door to door, is around 65-70 hours, 2.5 days.
Thank
Relatively
you,
easy.
It sounds easy, so please use it. That's the conclusion. Thank you. Port of Antwerp for sure developed a policy. Can you explain a bit how Port of Antwerp wants to focus?
Yes, we have done recently a benchmark analysis of all connections, and we have also identified the volumes which are currently transported on the road, which can be shifted to barge or rail. We have also compared the prices and transit time for all three modes, rail, barge and truck. And we came to the conclusions that there are certain regions where there is potential for modal shift. And in these regions, we will give a dedicated support and extra push to develop new trains and barges. You can see on this map the regions. No? In Germany, these are the three key areas along the River Rhine. In France, it's region Lyon and Paris. In Austria, the region Vienna and Wolfurt and Vorarlberg. And in Central and Eastern Europe, it's region Warsaw in Poland, and also the cross-border region Czechia, Slovakia and Poland. In these regions, we will aim to develop new trains, and the other ones for barges. The key goal is to develop and increase the frequency of the barges in South Netherlands and in Belgium. And we will give a dedicated commercial and promotional support to these regions, also by our local representatives, commercial representatives, which are present and active in these countries.
Okay, so a clear plan with focus that guarantees success. I'm sure that the other regions, which are today already well connected, remain important for the Port of Antwerp. Sure. Okay. We have a few friends from the Far East in our audience. So, Katrina, the obvious question, what about the China trains in Port of Antwerp?
China, yes, the rail bridge between China and Europe is in fact a nice enrichment of our maritime connections of the port. And Port of Antwerp offers two possibilities, either the direct connection to China or more often the possibility via short-haul shuttles via the inland terminals in Neuss or Duisburg, or the inland terminals in Central and Eastern Europe. The big advantage is the transit time and price compared to the air freight. When the trains arrive from China in Antwerp, they can be further distributed, and the containers can be further distributed to the overseas destination, but also to UK by short sea shipping, or to Scandinavia or West Africa.
Lovely. So Port of Antwerp is excellently connected to China via maritime ways and via rail now as well. We have a question from the audience, which I think is interesting. It's about the competitivity of our port for rail. So the question is, what would be your ideas to increase the efficiency on first and last mile for rail transport in the port? Katharina, what do you think?
Well, we need to innovate and to digitalize the railway business in order to make it accessible and easy. And I think that efforts are needed from many parties, and we appreciate already lots of efforts have been done, so thank you for that. But we need also efforts from Belgian government, for example, to decrease the cost of infrastructure, as it was done in the neighboring countries, the infrastructure managers to ensure the capacity for the trains, the railway operators to provide reliable products and efficient products, the shippers to choose for the intermodal transport. And finally, we as a Port of Antwerp have, of course, our homework to be done. And our priority and focus is to improve the efficiency of the first mile in the port, and to optimize the rail infrastructure in the port.
So we're actively working on this first and last mile. Any tangible achievement you can announce today? I mean, we have a lot of plans, I understand. We are doing a lot of things, but do you have any good news already to share today?
Well, actually, yes. And it was just yesterday that it was announced that the two major container terminals, MPET and Antwerp Gateway, will cooperate together to use the joint infrastructure for the export and import of the containers aimed for the transport to hinterland. In particular, this means, what is the added value, that the containers can be exchanged between the two terminals and the volumes combined for one rail shuttle to the hinterland. So this will give also an extra boost to utilization of the trains and also the increase in frequency of trains. So I believe this will increase the competitiveness of Port of Antwerp regarding rail.
Last question. A lot of people are concerned with the low water situation on the Rhine, which appears more regularly in these last years. Can rail be an alternative here?
Yes, this is an important topic in our port, and the low water Rhine is an issue. The Rhine is unpredictable, so we need to prepare for the future. And if barge, as a first alternative, cannot serve rail, can provide a second option. And in fact, we appreciate already a proactiveness of some key railway players, like Lineas Intermodal or DB Cargo, who proactively put extra capacities on the trains to ensure flexible solutions for the customers. So this is a good development. Lineas Intermodal has gained extra wagons on the shuttles to, for example, to the two hubs in Germany, Cologne and Recklinghausen, from which we have daily shuttles. Okay. So, and the second example is DB Cargo.
Okay. So a good alternative, lovely. DB Cargo you mentioned, I think it's time now to bring into the conversation Mr. Pierre Timmermans, a member of the board of DB Cargo for sales and marketing, a long experience in rail and logistics. DB Cargo is the biggest railway undertaking in Germany with a robust railway network all over Europe. Pierre, do we have you online? Because I have a first question for you. What is the vision and the plans of DB Cargo in the Port of Antwerp?
Luc, thanks for your question. DB's plans and visions on Antwerp. Let me start with sharing an observation. In my observation, Antwerp has a front door, a nautical exit that is second to none. With the deepening of the river Scheldt, even the largest seagoing vessels can access and enter the port of Antwerp. Nevertheless, the back door, the connectivity with the hinterland, if we look at the charts, lags somehow behind. We now have a model split, a share of rail of only 7%. I think all parties involved in Belgium, in Flanders, would like to see this to move at least 15% and more in line with other major European ports. Our ambition, our goal is to help Port of Antwerp with connecting the port through the back door with the hinterland and in particular the German hinterland. So we would like to help move Antwerp from the 7% to the 15% and beyond 15% of model split. How would we like to do that? We would like to, in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, to be able to connect every quay in the Port of Antwerp, every container quay of the Port of Antwerp, with every economic center in Germany. So that is 5 quays with 16 Bundesländer, as it's called, in Germany. That's our goal, and that is what we are planning for. Every day, every quay of every economic center in Germany. That's our vision, and that's where we want to work together with the Port of Antwerp.
Good plans for Antwerp. What is exactly DB Cargo going to make happen for this vision, to make this vision become reality? Will you invest in Antwerp, or what exactly are your plans?
Luc, thanks for your questions. Our plans for investment and tangible efforts in Antwerp. Well, at the moment, we are already in Antwerp. We run about 250 trains a week from Antwerp to the hinterland. Our plans are, within the foreseeable future, to move it up to about 500 trains. In order to facilitate it, we will be employing over 100 extra staff. We will be investing in locos, in shunting locos, and we will dedicate a fleet of Vectrons, multi-system locos, to Belgium, to Antwerp in particular. What is it that we are doing in practice? Well, as from June, we started from the right bank with a shuttle on Duisburg. Tomorrow, as of tomorrow, from the right bank, the 913 actually, we will start a shuttle on Neuss. The next step up will be in December, when from both left bank and right bank we will start a service on South Germany. That basically is the starting point and the setup point for further expansion and making our ambition of connecting every quay in Antwerp with every day, with every German Bundesland on a daily basis.
We are very happy that DB Cargo is indeed going to increase its connections to the port of Antwerp. And it also, and that's for me the main message, and I want to thank Pierre for that, it's the belief in the modus of transport by rail. Doing these investments is of course based on a conviction that rail has its importance. Let's now move on to the next chapter, sustainable barge transport. Ingrid, Port of Antwerp has excellent connections by barge. We saw it in the movie. We have a high market share, but we still want to grow. From what we see in the movie, are there some things you like to highlight?
Well, yes. If you want to consider a model shift, the first step you take is to be comfortable and to know what the market can offer. Katharina already explained the rail offer. So barge offer was shortly shown in the movie, but I still would like to highlight it. Perhaps you can see it on the slide. Is today we have 222 frequent shuttles to at least 19 destinations. We are proud to say that as Port of Antwerp we are market leader on barge destinations in Belgium, it's Wallonia and Flanders, to Luxembourg and also to North France. We have the largest number of connections with the Rhine region, connecting us of course with Germany. So it makes inland navigation a very good alternative with a good frequency and also with a very attractive in price.
In our modal split, barge is already 36%, so it's a high figure. Do you see opportunities for further growth?
Yes, so indeed, compared to rail and truck, barge is the winner. For the three, we are even trying to reach 42%. And of course, we can still grow. We can increase the frequency, but there's also still some capacity on the barge and inland waterways. So we've chosen focus region as the Netherlands and the North France to increase and offer a qualitative and frequent services with all partners involved. Of course, we can't do this alone.
All good news, Ingrid, but there must be challenges.
Well, yes. Everyone who works in logistics knows that delay always occurs, and we have to admit barge is also not perfect in this, of course. Yeah. We have to ensure a smooth process. It will only make people decide to choose for barge or for rail or other alternative is when you can offer a smooth process. And today we are investing a lot to facilitate and to encourage the cooperation and communication between all stakeholders involved into this barge process. We want to minimize delays and ensure fast handlings. And if we speak of stakeholders, we are encouraging the workings between terminal, shipping lines, barge operators and forwarders, and these kind of bottlenecks we need to avoid and work on to maximize the capacity of the barge.
Okay. Let's call in Mr. Ken Joris now. Ken, do we have you online? Ken Joris is Chief Commercial Officer of Manupol Logistics Group. And Ken, I'm right if I call you the guy for which barge is his passion?
not only a passion, it's life actually for us. We are a bit in a privileged position there within our group, as we are part of the Euroports group, of course, who has also quite a lot of terminals in the port of Antwerp.
Lovely. Ken, I've got 3 questions. How did Maniport develop its barge activities?
Well, as said, we are part of a group that runs assets, not only assets in the port through its inland terminals and through the deep sea terminals, but also assets in the form of barges, push barges, even tankers since recently, and container barges. All the transport services of the group basically today, they are managed by Maniport Logistics. So we combine the forwarding and the transport expertise here, which brings a nice total story to the market. So we connect our own terminals, we connect inland terminals, we connect our clients, which are located next to the water, or make sure that they get to the water. For us, it's very important to have also there a multi-commodity solution. We have a lot of commodity verticals, so also from the barging side, we need to act and think multi-product. Of course, then you need the right assets, which is quite diversified, but also the right specialists to bring everything together. For our container volumes, we recently, through a merger of RPS and iBarge, became one of the shareholders of WeBarge. WeBarge takes care of our intra-port flows, but focuses solely on the container volumes. For everything that is bulk, break bulk, project, liquids, and even pallets, we have our specialists in-house, and they operate under the entity of Barging Solutions. Below Barging Solutions, so also there in the shareholding, we find CBO, and CBO is a cooperative of bargees that supply the capacity that we need to bring the products of our clients from A to B. For us, inland shipping is not just making sure that the product goes on the water, but it is part of a total supply chain concept that we define together with our clients. Through our expertise as a forwarder, we overview the flows across clients, and usually this makes the difference in making sure that also the water option is affordable and efficient. We do a lot of different commodities, as said. We have our concepts for the flooring industry. We have sugar coming in from the north of France, the south of Germany, Holland, and Belgium. We have steel products. We have palletized products, mostly linked to the construction material, and liquids, also in raw materials for the chemical industry that we bring to the water and to the final destinations. Maybe to give you some rough figures, non-containerized, so break bulk, bulk, dry bulk, etc. We transport about 2.5 million tons. Containerized, we have about 300,000 TEUs that we do over water. That gives you about 400,000 trucks off the road every year.
Thank you, Ken. You clearly convinced customers to use barge. Often we talk about a mental shift that is needed to do this modal shift. Can you still give some advice to the audience on how you were able to convince your customers to use alternative transport modes like barge?
Like I said, it's not only to convince them about the barge part, it is a full story. It's also not or road or barge, it's usually and road and barge. So there's always the first or the last leg, there's always a connection to make just in time through the wheels. So it's actually a marriage of multiple transport means. If you put that all together, you create a healthy mix and balance, then you have a chance. Usually what also makes the difference is reusing some of your capacity, the barging capacity, but also the container capacity. And the best example I can give here is the setup that we have developed for the flooring industry in West Flanders. That's where we work through one of the inland terminals which is available in Wielsbeke. We supply raw materials, semi-finished products, and also some consumer goods inbound to the area. And by reusing our inbound containers, we succeeded to bring the export of the finished flooring products also to the water. This even gives a cost today which is slightly better than a direct trucking cost. The client has then the advantage to have a stock of containers or a capacity next door, which uncouples basically a supply chain from the deep sea ports. Only the urgent loads, they remain on truck, because of course sometimes you need to catch a window of a certain vessel, and then sometimes the barge of course takes a little bit more time, but that is compensated then by having a multimodal solution and also involving the truck. I think a very important part is that we give full flexibility and full visibility as well to the clients, so they can follow through our control tower what's happening, and we help them to make the right decisions. If you look at the inland terminal network, there is almost no terminal which we are not using. And we use terminals in Belgium, going over Wielsbeke, Ghent, La Louvière, Liège, even up to Gland. But also the northern France area is quite important for us. Holland is important, and Germany. If you put all of that together, if you have substantial flows with your clients, then as an architect, we like to come with total solutions to that client, but that's solution, if you can bring it in an efficient way, which means also from a cost perspective, you supply a greener and sustainable solution, then who can say no to these kind of solutions?
Okay, thank you. Last question, short answer, please. What can still be improved to realize or speed up the modal shift, in your opinion?
Today, our biggest challenge basically is the service that we see on the deep sea, on the maritime terminals. If we can get that right, and there are a couple of initiatives already where Port of Antwerp is also intervening and playing a very good role, then I think for sure we can even bring a couple of 100,000 extras from road to the water side. Of course, this efficiency is key, because today it's not really viable and sustainable for the barge operators to continue waiting in front of the maritime case.
Okay, thank you very much for these insights. We wish you all good luck with the company and the further developments in barge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now time for a short interaction with the audience. We have a question in the poll. So if you go to the tab page poll, you will see the question. And it is, we have been talking about this modal shift now for the last 45 minutes, but have you already implemented a modal shift? So the question, have you already implemented a modal shift? And there are 4 answers to that. Number 1, no, and I'm not considering. Number 2, no, but I'm open to look at opportunities. And number 3, we have tangible plans to shift soon, so solid, decided plans. Number 4, yes, we have already implemented some modal shift projects. We can have a look at the poll now. I have the results here. And I think these results are encouraging. We have 65% of the people who actually have been implementing modal shift, so answer 4. So that's very encouraging. 10% have tangible plans to shift, so actively thinking about it and doing it is 75%. I think, ladies, that is a very good result. And
It's
let's
better
hope
than expected.
it's better than expected.
Yeah.
7% is not considering, so we still have to convince these people. And 18% is open to look at opportunities. I think this reply is absolutely enthusing us to continue our efforts. And it's promising that we are moving towards a good modal shift. Thanks everybody for filling in the poll. Nighttime logistics, 4th chapter, also often mentioned as a solution in organizing your connection to the hinterland. Catharina, what is nighttime logistics exactly about?
Well, very briefly, the Flemish road network has a lot of spare capacity, and the Port of Antwerp is actually open the whole night. And by means of night logistics, we mean the possibility for the transporter to drop off or to pick up the containers at the gates of the maritime terminals. And for this purpose, we have had a task force, a project to stimulate the maritime terminals to be open during the night. And at this moment, you can see it on this slide, all key maritime terminals are opened. These are the Empet and Antwerp Gateway on the left bank and 2 PSA terminals on the right bank. There are also empty depots opened, and a few of the depots have extended the opening hours. There are also storage capacities and also warehouses open during the night. So the key goal here is to spread the peaking moments on the road and to make better use of the night logistics.
Ingrid, we understand for nighttime logistics that the terminals or some terminals are interested, some warehouse operators are interested in changing their opening hours, but evidently if the cargo doesn't follow, it doesn't make sense. So how is nighttime logistics received now and used by the actual users?
Well, we've seen that when we started with this nighttime logistics, now today many truckers are making use of it, and the night opening is well known here. If I say here, it's here with us in Antwerp, but we still want much more customers to make use of it. That's why we are explaining it today, so the customers in Europe have to be aware about it. But then still, we've already mentioned the word, we have the modal shift, but we also have the mental shift. And as a customer or shipper, think of your logistic process. In many times, it's a fixed process already existing for many years. That's easy, it's reliable, it's comfortable, but you have to dare to change it. And we also, we understand that we are not asking all the companies to be open during the night, but just by adapting some small changes in your process, we've seen, and it happens, it's proven that you can make use of this nighttime logistics. And, of course, save cost on waiting hours during the day. So my message is that dare to change and know also what is possible. And that's where we can help you to explain everything about it.
We now arrive at the last chapter of our webinar, hassle-free short sea transport. We discussed rail and barge as connections to the hinterland, as transport modes, but there is this other alternative, short sea shipping. Ingrid, what is that about?
Well, I like the title of the slide, hassle-free short sea transport. Well, short sea is last but not least also a very good alternative to reach destinations within Europe. The slide, you can see it on the slide, almost 23 European countries are connected by a shoreline which is at least 66,000 kilometers shoreline connecting all those countries together. A short sea connection is characterized by being a frequent connection. It's also a short transit time. It's, for example, from 1 day, 24 hours, to 6 days, depending the destination, and it's offered by the shipping lines by a fixed schedule every week, 2-3 times a week. As a port, we are today encouraging and working on developing new corridors. For example, our focus regions are the Mediterranean region, like Spain, Portugal, and we are also putting efforts in connection with Northern Europe, Norway, for example. Today, we are market leader for countries like Turkey and Israel. So we do have a very nice offer of short sea connections from the ports, reaching all destinations in Europe.
In view of the challenges we discussed at the beginning of the webinar, do you feel short sea has specific opportunities today?
Yes, one thing that I can say is that you don't have to take big steps to use short sea. Katharina explained the process for rail, but for short sea it's the same process, that you can have this door-to-door principle. Your cargo will be delivered at the door, the last leg being affected by truck. You are not impacted by road congestion because it's via maritime way. Think about the shortage of truck drivers, which will only increase the coming years. We have very popular topic is the upcoming Brexit. We are sure that by using ferry transport, you will be impacted and suffer delays at the borders because of the customs control and the increased paperwork, of course. And one thing which was very interesting to see is that during lockdown, when we had all those countries closing their borders and truck transport became blocked, is that we saw the volumes of short sea increasing because you didn't have this problem at the border and you could still easily reach destinations in Europe. So may that be a motivation to check for short sea opportunities.
Okay, thank Thank you. I see we have a lot of questions, but they are being answered by the team behind the scenes. So thank you for that. I don't think we need to take one on because they are all being answered online. Thanks a lot for that. That brings us to the last slides of our webinar. People for sure will have more questions beside the many we see in the chat and in the question tab. How can they contact us in the future?
Well, they can, of course, contact us, but also we have a wide network of representatives in the world, our colleagues here, and you can reach out to them for any questions on transport, on modal shift, but also on other questions related to the Port of Antwerp and logistics. So please feel free to contact them and they are happy to help you.
And I'm sure they can also contact us, of course,
yes,
for any further questions. And not only questions, but also if you have plans for modal shift. For us, it's always important to have examples and to be able to share these testimonials. So please, also, if you have tangible projects, do not forget to address them to us so that we are aware of them. And then that brings us to a last or pre-last slide, Katharina. What do you want our audience to remember from this webinar?
Well, let's remember, please rethink your supply chain. There is no future without barge and rail transport. And discover short sea shipping and nighttime logistics. And finally, we appeal to all of you and we encourage you all to use the alternative transport modes, as we as a Port of Antwerp also want to make a contribution to your sustainable and above all reliable supply chains which are resilient for the future.
Okay, lovely. I think that summarizes indeed the key messages. And that brings me to the last slide. And it's a pleasure for me to bring this. I'm now to invite you to our next event, the Hybrid Intermodal Marketplace. So on November 16 upcoming, we are organizing this marketplace where operators will be presenting their solutions for rail, barge and short sea. But also forwarders will be present and shippers to discuss the different opportunities and what they are actually doing here. Preferably, we receive you there in person. It's going to be a great experience. But also online, it will be a great experience. We are going to organize the networking with all the modern tools that are available. It will be a 3D experience, I've been told. So I'm also curious on how this will be organized, but for sure it sounds promising. So please join us on November 16 and all further steps that are being taken today will be explained and all players will be able to show their offering. And this brings me to the very last items. I think we are very well in time, 5 minutes ahead. I want to thank you for being here and giving us all your insight and answering all these questions. You have done a great job. I also want to thank the colleagues behind the scene, of course, who have been preparing this and who have made this all possible. Evidently, I also want to thank our two speakers that came in, Mr. Timmermans and Mr. Joris, with their views. And last but not least, I'm of course addressing the audience from all over the world. Thank you for joining us today. There has been a lot of interaction on the chat and the question box, so that proves that the subject is touching all of us. Thank you. Please stay in contact with Port of Antwerp. There are plentiful opportunities. There are webinars coming up. We have our hybrid event in November. And of course, you're always welcome in Antwerp. Post-COVID, the coffee is ready. Thank you very, very much and see you soon on our next opportunity.